In this video, we're going to take a closer look at calligraphy brushes in Inkscape, Illustrator, and Affinity. And I'm going to start with Inkscape because it has the most options. Let's go to the calligraphy tool, and here we've got all those options, and I totally recommend experimenting with them. And of course, that is most rewarding if you're using a graphic tablet, which I don't. But if you want to have a glimpse into what's possible, take a look at these presets. So I'm going to start with the pen, which is kind of a calligraphic pen. So you can start by drawing this line, and we can adjust a lot of options, of course, the size, and then also here we've got the angle of that brush, so you can adjust the angle that shows here. What's crazy is also a wiggle. That is something that can introduce some roughness into your strokes, which are pretty interesting as well. And then just take a look at those. And this is splotchy, so it's some wiggle and some other things on top of that. The only thing that I find a little disappointing is that these are turned into paths, are outlined immediately. So after drawing, you can no longer adjust the line that you have drawn, which could be pretty interesting, particularly when you're drawing calligraphy. Let's take a look at Illustrator. In Illustrator, we have the brush tool, and we have additionally the blob brush tool. The blob brush tool works like the calligraphy tool in Inkscape, and it creates shapes immediately. So let's take a look at the paintbrush tool, which uses similar brush tips for your brush. So let's go to the brushes panel, and in there we can double click one of these calligraphy brushes, and there we can edit how it draws. And in order to have calligraphic strokes, you would have this kind of oval and adjust the angle, which you can tie to several features of your graphic tablet. But when using a mouse, of course, you set this all to fixed, and then you can draw a calligraphic stroke. And the interesting thing in this is that you can edit this. You can adjust the line that you have drawn afterwards, and you can of course also adjust all these options and change that rotation later on, and that path adjusts to that, which is pretty interesting, of course. And also, if you're using a graphic tablet, all these options are saved into the stroke. If you are using the plugin Illuskit, which I have shown in another video, then you can also create all of that by using just a mouse. Or if you're using a graphic tablet, you can adjust that afterwards directly on that stroke, which makes that even more interesting. Let's take a look at Affinity. So far, we have seen brushes that are vector-based. They are editable, they have a lot of options, and in the end you can convert them to 100% vector-based paths in order to have all the options that you have with vector artwork. In Affinity, you can use the path brush tool to draw with brushes, and then we need the brush itself. And as we have seen in the intro video to the brushes, in Affinity there are a lot of pixel-based brushes, and there are only few vector-based brushes. In fact, only the calligraphy type of brushes are vector-based. So let's first draw a path, and then I'm going to select that and apply one of these brushes from the pen section. So let's take this one here, and I'm going to double click it, and you see this one here is in fact a pixel-based brush. So in the pen section we have a mixture of these brushes. What we need is this one here that also uses pressure, and let's double click it and take a look at it. And as you can see, we do not have such a thing as an angle or even the option to get it, because the base shape of this is round. So applying an angle makes not a lot of sense. And we can adjust the width. And this can be based on pressure or velocity, so the speed at which you are drawing. And then you can just use that. And you can have a size variance. And you can also have an opacity variance. So this can be a see-through stroke. So this is something that only Affinity offers. Another thing that you only get in Affinity is the editing of the pressure. You can go to the stroke settings and to the pressure, and there you can edit how pressure is applied to that stroke. So you can edit this pressure curve. Let's apply that here. Now you see also that this opacity has been applied. These brushes are vector-based, but if you have applied the opacity variation, then when you go to vector and expand the stroke, this is deleted. The reduced opacity also cannot be exported to EPS or PDF, so it has to be treated with some caution. And also the lack of a true calligraphic stroke is a little limiting.